SMT Nation, we back. Nation, today's commentary video is going to be an extension of the news story that broke late last night. At the time of this recording, it is October 18th, right? And the story broke very late in the news cycle on the 17th here in 2023. So with that being said, I just want to kind of think aloud, maybe discuss some of these concepts within the construct of this video. You know, with T-Mobile possibly getting involved with Frontier. Frontier is a wireline network provider, right? ISP. And I want to talk about what they do, their situation as a company, and then what would be T-Mobile's place in this with this investment firm, Jana, and how it might look or be constructed. All right, so I'll be sure to link the article for you in the description. I think there's also a story on Readers, so it's worth checking out. But I do want to say, as a kind of a disclaimer, this is all rumor, conjecture, and speculative. Not even T-Mobile has responded to any of this yet. So just kind of, something forward-looking and kind of fun to kind of predict what might happen and what T-Mobile might be thinking. All right, so article linked in the description and ways to support the SMT and the content here in the channel also in the description. All right, so T-Mobile getting involved with a wireline operator like Frontier. There are a lot of things here. First of all, I just want to say that T-Mobile has become a more profitable company. They have free cash flow, and those free cash flows should continue to accelerate through the next several quarters and into the next several years. That being said, they have begun a share buyback program, right? So we're talking about corporate tasks here, right? Things that they want to do for shareholders' sake. They're now paying a dividend. All those things adding up to tens of billions of dollars, right? Meanwhile, they're still trying to build a bigger, better 5G network. That's not going to change. They have to scale their wireless network, fiber optic circuit backhaul, right, to their tower sites. And that's where I think something like this comes into play. If T-Mobile were to make a play as an investment into Frontier, the way I would see this being constructed is that they would be an investor into some sort of a joint venture with Jana Investments, right? T-Mobile would not be the sole owner of Frontier. They simply don't have the cash flow to do that now. They don't have the credit rating. They don't, they're still leveraged. I'm not sure what exactly, people say in comment sections. Some people are very misguided, uninformed, and they'll say anything. But T-Mobile has debt. And T-Mobile has debt that goes prior to the merger with Sprint. And then there's that debt, right? And it's okay for companies to have debt. They generate free cash flow. They make money. Having debt is just part of making money. So that's not what I'm saying there. But they're not infallible, and they're not going to put themselves in a position to all of a sudden become weaker within the industry. They have enjoyed 5G stimulus packages with the merger with Spectrum from Sprint, with Metro. I mean, basically that's what it's been for the last 10 to 15 years, right? Things have gone their way and they have capitalized with all those opportunities. They've taken advantage of a distracted Verizon, a distracted AT&T, and they have pushed all the right buttons. They don't want to all of a sudden start making mistakes. Frontier could be a mistake. That is very much so a possibility. So in that respect, you want to make sure you pump the brakes and make the right call. That's going to be Mike Sievert's call. That's going to be the company's call if they get involved. I personally believe they're going to be a small stake shareholder in this, right? I think they'll just be one small player within that joint venture. And that would be good for them, and that's okay. Maybe they become a larger holder of the company later, but to me, it's good for them because Frontier is an ILEC. There are situations where this would benefit T-Mobile from a tower site perspective. Obviously, this puts them into people's homes as a fiber operator. If that were to change and they could rebrand and other options, I don't think we're that close to a deal. I think this is kind of like early developments and talks between these companies. We know that T-Mobile has been weighing a possible U.S. Cellular option, purchasing them, and we haven't heard anything outside of the initial rumblings of that. Maybe that's fallen through. Maybe that's not legitimate. Maybe they didn't get the right price they've wanted in negotiations. and now they're looking this way. But this is definitely something that is brewing. This is something that is on the table for T-Mobile. They are a much different company than they used to be. You guys see the pressure that they are applying to their customers, forced rate changes, more expensive plans, right? Becoming more profitable and having improved margins puts them in a position to make these types of moves. So I do think there is something here. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, how it'll be structured, but I think it makes sense for T-Mobile to explore it from that position. Maybe not being, a full blown out, majority owner in the stakes, but I do think a partial stake ownership makes a lot of sense. Again, they have their own debt, right? And yes, Verizon has a lot of debt and AT&T has a lot of debt, but this would put this would definitely put T-Mobile in that ilk. They would become one of those highly leveraged, high debt companies, just like Verizon and AT&T. Frontier is a fiber overbuilder, and their company financials look terrible. They are. I don't even think they're profitable at this point, right? The cost of ownership and operations of their fiber network, they don't have the clientele and they don't have the margins to allow them to enjoy those profits that makes them a standalone company for the future. And that's why they're in this position. It makes sense for T-Mobile to explore. It makes sense for them to get involved. I just think we need to pump our brakes and see what the construction of this deal would look like and what it means for T-Mobile. So before we start jumping to conclusions, thinking this is foregone going to happen, let's just pump the brakes. Let's see what T-Mobile has to say. Until that time, we call this speculative. And looking at how T-Mobile has moved in the past, I don't know if they're going to be anything more than a 10 or a 15% shareholder in this. I don't know if they have the assets. I don't know if they have the credit. And I don't know if they want to go in on Frontier, who is also debt laden. And, I'm not sure about the benefits to T-Mobile to jump in head first into something so large that does indeed have a little bit of downside. Now, if you don't agree and you don't think there's any downside, I think you're being a little naive. There's always going to be risk. I do like when a company is willing to take a calculated risk where the benefits outweigh the downside. So maybe this is that for T-Mobile. We shall see. We'll continue to track it. We'll have to get more disclosures from other analysts at least before we draw any conclusions. And of course, a comment or two from T-Mobile would be massive. And we'll see what they have to say on this. But I think there is something brewing there, but we just have to wait and see. Sound off in the comment section below. You all, the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.